Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the desk here. LJLOU bringing you that LJL 2021 Spring Split Playoffs coverage. First round is here. Game number 2 is upon us, of Crest Gaming Act facing off against Sengoku Gaming. And gentlemen, we've already covered how Sengoku Gaming and Crest Gaming Act got to this place and how the game really broke down. But now we need to be thinking about the future. And gentlemen, what are some of the factors and key points that either of you would like to talk about when it comes into this second game? I'm going to go to you, Initialize, first.
Sengoku Gaming have found themselves the win condition in the bot lane. We thought it might be from pre-game. It's proved to be true. They put a lot of focus and emphasis towards getting Gango a good matchup and then a good game state to increase his power. But ending up 3.6k ahead early on over his lane opponent individually, it's frankly absurd. And for CGA, if they're going to play strong side top, they need to make sure it's not coming at the cost of an incredible bleed out in bot lane.
Same question over to you, Namir.
Well, I think that Sengoku, like Sam was saying, have just kind of found whatever clicks, and they found it in multiple ways too. They've actually been able to play strong side bot or actually play with an eked out top lane advantage. This game kind of felt like they tried to do both. I think where Crest Gaming app can really start iterating on stuff is how they then start weaponizing Nation if it's actually on the side lanes where all this pressure is, because I think that Cassina Nation had a real impact in that game.
Well, Nation sadly adding to another loss in his history of Zoe losses. 1-4 now on that champion. It's clearly not been something that really works with, well, at least in the past showings for this player. And talking about Nation, what kind of champions would you specifically like to see? Would you like to see a return of the Rumble? Do you want to see a return of the Lucian? Like, what kind of picks do you think can work for Crest Gaming Act with how their team and lineup came from that specific first game?
Really depends on the comps. I think in that game, the Zoe was actually a very good pick. I think that pick could have popped up, in fact, actually was in the early game. If that, again, that Baron doesn't happen, the mid lane tower doesn't fall, and the vision gets seeded over towards Sengoku, I think that Nation actually ends up causing Sengoku a lot of problems. He already was around a lot of these fights. I think it might be, one of those questions like, if they've locked in something like a static AD carry, something like a Senna or a Caitlyn, and then have a Victor, maybe that's when you bring back out the Rumble when they don't have that same ability to move about and disengage from something like the red carpet of that of the Equalizer. And then at that point, maybe you ask Kassin, hey, do you play Jarvan? That seems like a good pick right now.
I mean, from the other side's point of view, though, Sengoku Gaming, Ramune did exactly what he had to do in a lot of these team fights. Initialize. He protected the backline and shuffled away anybody trying to get near them.
Yeah, he did. He was pretty rough in the early game because he was basically forever wondering, where is this Graves? I have no vision control around mid lane, and Nation is just popping forward to throw bubbles at me all the time. What do? I can't play aggressively. I'm having to play sort of like Dance Dance Revolution over here with my quick steps to avoid all these crazy combos coming at me from the Zoe. But he does come into the mid game having not died in lane, despite some challenges against that, and pulls out what he needs to. Ramune has been stepping up as this split has gone along. I still don't necessarily think he's at a sort of the superstar level he was, but he is a functional member of the team and is playing his role well, which is a lot better than it was 5-6 weeks ago when they just didn't seem to know what they wanted to do with Ramune. They're playing with Gango as the main carry. Ramune is playing a great role as a secondary carry. The Azir worked out very well in this game.
I want to just bring it over to the first game's bans that we saw coming out from both these teams. Let's talk about Crest Gaming Act first while we're waiting for these teams to get into the next game, gentlemen. Crest Gaming Act banned out Karma Seraphine, and I'm also interested in the second rotation, that Nocturne ban. Gentlemen, what are your thoughts on those? I know you initially were like, this could be a lane Nocturne.
Well, it is a lane Nocturne because Hecarim was locked in. So, they banned that away against the team with Hecarim, saying, there is something going on in scrims here. And, lane Nocturne has reared its head before in the LJL. It's reared its head occasionally around the world. Exactly. I mean, I think Chovy played it recently. It didn't win, but he played it. No, it wasn't Chovy. It was somebody else. Fly played it, and it didn't work out for Freak of Freaks. That's right.
Because it wasn't Chovy.
That wasn't Chovy.
There you
Indeed. But the point being, there has been some hints and rumors around about Vedius maybe hasn't been spouting complete madness all this time.
Don't give him no. Don't
Well,
don't get
they were
Vedios off like that.
legitimate lane Nocturne nerfs back in summer 2020. I'm throwing it out there. It's been a recent phenomenon, yes, but it's not like it's completely unheard of.
We were also a region that really did that. I mean, on the other side, gentlemen, 4 bans over to Nation, all targeted towards his top lane pool. That Lucian, that Twisted Fate, the Oriana, and Rumble all coming through. Nightmare, like this man got targeted hard.
Yeah, that he did. I mean, I look over at this player though, and if you give this player agency in a draft where he can actually succeed in, then yes, you are probably going to get punished for it. That Zoe very nearly popped off, like I said. I think that particularly also CGA banned away some nullifying lane picks too. Karma being buffed on this patch means that the extra couple of seconds off Q at each rank means that either in support or in mid lane, you are just a lot stronger at punishing and poking in the early game. And you're just, still that survivable mage that you are. Nathan, if he's given a matchup where he can start spreading that pressure to the rest of the map, that's going to be a danger point for Sengoku. They want to really avoid that if they can.
So, I mean, we forgot to actually talk about this initialize, but I'd like to get your thoughts on that Seraphine and Karma just before we go in. Is this an option for Sengoku Gaming? They're just going to put Gango potentially on this crazy thing, or would the Aphelios come out? And while you think about that, gentlemen, pick and van phase is upon us, so let's switch over and get into it.
Thank you very much, Maswan. I'll ponder that question as we do hit the rift. CJ have moved over to the blue side, which puts Sengoku over on the red. That's AD carry bans for both of these teams. Both Tristan and Lucian off the board, both flexible between multiple roles, actually, frankly, over here in the LJL. And, of course, the Karma ban coming out from CGA. And as for whether...
Really, these
Gango
teams don't actually care about the side of the rift. They just ban the same stuff.
There are just things they don't want to give over to the other team. I can understand not wanting to give Twisted Fate over. I think if you are good with your setups in the early game, or you've got good synergy between your mid and your jungle, Twisted Fate just does disgusting things. And Nahan and Cassin have definitely shown some propensity for playing well together. It is indeed the same bands. Look, that's a Seraphine out as well. And I'm curious to see whether Sengoku
Corporate needs you to tell the difference between these two pictures. They're the same picture. Actually, not quite. CJ is on the blue. Question is, what is really the power pick? I actually think Thresh is the power pick. It's taken away from Sengoku. Aphelios, Thresh denied from Gango and NC. They won't have that same crazy tower pushing early lane dominance that they can have out of that 2v2. What do they respond with now?
Also means that, of course, the thing with the Thresh is it means that Aphelios can just push up and be safe, right? Like, you can be so aggressive on towers despite not having the same range and safety as some other AD carries. And that's just not the option now. But, of course, Crash had a pretty damn good game on the Hecarim, so might be thinking going back towards that. Will do so. And they might look to pick up the Gnar as well, which looked so good for Nap in the last game. Cassin debating... reprising his champion as well, that Graves being hovered.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, that'd be really weird. I don't think that Graves was the issue. I think that the problem is now you don't have yourself a Rel. You might give that over to NC, and now you're lacking that same teamfight engage that you had. I actually wondered if Jinx would come out. It's a first for Milan, of course, rookie split. Jinx Thresh, we've seen this all the way since Season 4. In fact, that was the champion that was released when I started playing, so it's a bit nostalgia for me. Has to survive versus the Rel, though. Kind of shoe on the other foot from Game 1.
I have Get Jinxed running through my head nice and ready. That launch video with that little bit of punk rock music to back it up. I am so glad to see Jinx back in meta. It has been a little while. Seeing the likes of Deft playing it one more time has been pretty special. It'll be Milan's chance to get this out. It's not the Aphelios, but it is still a hyper carry, hyper tower destruction option. And it'll certainly look pretty exciting to keep our eyes on. Does leave Sengoku Gaming, though, with the opportunity to pick up Rel for themselves. They still need to look towards an AD carry and a mid laner, whereas CGA looking towards a mid and probably a top is what we're expecting, unless some real shenanigans come through with that Graves. We've got a couple bans coming through in the second phase. Sengoku focusing towards the top lane, CJ more towards the mid.
So I think that, well, I mean, a lot of people share the opinion that Azir is just very strong right now. Now that Sengoku have that chance to snap up the first pick after these picks and Gandalfs come through, I think the Samira is a good ban, by the way. Coming back in priority somewhat after, you know, a couple of the other AD carries have been nerfed and Samira's kind of making their way kind of back into the meta, particularly alongside Rel as that hyper engage does come through. Orianna, kind of the last of the Premier Control mages, which means that Nation, what are you going to go towards? Is this going to be a fallback towards Syndra, which so many players have done before? Not the strongest of picks in the meta right now, so been struggling globally. Or do you have yourself, you know, another matchup that does well into this Orianna?
Orianna Rel as well. Just a filthy combo.
Yeah,
it's
good
been
luck with that.
so strong. All split so long. You've got a Hecarim to go along with it. It's
It was
the
banned
Horseman of
last
the
game.
Apocalypse. There's only two of there's only two of them. And that is Nocturne. Locked
It was
in
banned last game.
for the solo lane. It was banned last game. It's picked up this time. Interestingly, it was CJ that banned the Nocturne last game. But we have a mid lane Nocturne. Someone go tweet at Vedius
Quick,
already.
someone at Vedius, yes. So we have one last pick. So this could be, well, actually, this could be Nocturne top going to the Nara as well. That could be something. You can spell shield out the boomerang, and this would be Rumble between the solo lane. I don't think I've seen a Nocturne top in a very long time. Nocturne mid, Pyrian, the former solo laner, mid laner for Sengoku last year, played a number of games of it. Now this Callista, that would throw a spanner in the works of CGA. So with that, both of them are specialty champions, again, go.
That's kind of a fun one. It is indeed a specialty of Gango. He's played quite a lot over his career, don't get me wrong, but Kaiser's definitely been up there. I think you're right to call that one out. And now we've got to wait and see whether that's a Nocturne mid or a Nocturne top as well, because Neha's played Rumble mid, and I'm horribly afraid that'll be a Nocturne not in the mid lane.
I actually think it could bully out the mini Nara. I think that's definitely a potential because what you can do is, of course, you can spell shield the boomerang, and then if Nara's walked up to you and gets feared, you get to get a lot of auto attacks down onto them. You also have that AoE wave clear in terms of the cleave on your auto attacks. It looks like it's going to be locked into Nocturne top. All right, this is not something I have seen personally.
This will be an interesting one to check out. I see how it works. Of course, you've got big rundown potential with your Duskbringer. That's the Q. There we go. And you get
moves towards those feared targets too, you know? Yeah,
exactly. So I can see, particularly if this Gnar shoves up too far, could absolutely get run down. I see how it's supposed to function. I'll be interested to see if it works out in practice and how it works out if a jungler turns up as well, because I have no idea what a 2v2 looks like between these particular champions.
I would imagine a lot of this trading pattern is if this Gnar ever walks up too close, you start chasing them down, and then you use your ult after the hop's been used. After that point, you kind of use it to kind of reclose that gap and continue on, the horror show for ranged champions trying to deal with a knockdown on top of their face. We then also have the ability to have, you know, a hook or hook into chompers, into fear, and then have the, of course, Nation going across with the red carpet of the equalizer onto that Orianna and the Kaiser. That's the point where, like, if you CC combo with that, very, very dangerous to Sengoku.
All right, so it's in. That's a curveball. I'm excited to see how it works, but we've got a game to play to actually see it in practice. Nymera has broken down how we think. And I put that underlined because I just don't know this matchup. I've not seen it in practice. Should work out. Whether it works on the Rift is a completely different matter.
Absolutely. So, 5-man fan from both sides, but Kassin actually gets a ward over, switched over to the sweeper, but is seen. So, information kind of been won out by CJ for the first camp starts, at least from both of these teams. And now we're just going to wait and see where are these junglers going to start pathing. Looks like Hecarim is going top to bot. Graves actually looking to the opposite, maybe starting to try and put that Gnar under the cosh a bit.
Indeed. That does leave probably this Jinx and Thresh a little to the wolves, but Jinx decent enough at farming from range with the rockets and the like, so maybe that's the plan. Just let Jinx scale up a little bit more towards the mid game and play weak side and just turn up when she needs to in the team fights and try and play around this counter pick oddball option of this Nocturne top lane.
Sadly, gone for the Conqueror, which means that, again, you are looking to really start hitting all your abilities, start stacking them up. And yeah, he gets the movement speed on the Trail of Darkness there. And again, Minion is not someone that can really bully out the Nocturne so well, particularly once you get post level 3. Yes, you can start trading around with the Hyper Procs, but being able to Spell Shield the Boomerang, or the Boomerang rather, gives you a lot of ability to deny the first Hyper Proc, deny that first move speed bonus, and then start chasing down of your own right.
Okay, so you can see where that... I lost where I was going with that, either way. You can also just keep an eye on, of course, that we have got Crash over on his top side jungle, but it's just Kassin going for another one of these blue side invades. He did this last game, he's done it this game. He's going to go for actually the entire quadrant clear this time as well. He'll leave a single wolf alive for Hecarim to come and pick up. I think Graves is just going to get away with it.
And they would have gotten away with it too if it weren't for those meddling wolves. Actually, Gromp recess, that's really unfortunate. So there's no Smite available from either of these junglers. But with the lower HP, but I'm not sure Crash wants to walk up here.
No, he doesn't. He pops the W to try and get himself out and does so. But look who's around. Enti is here as well. Might look to make this a bit more challenging. The HP bars are low. But Kassin is now in a 1 versus 2. Alchemy is not here as yet. And probably needs to think about being very careful about whether he takes it. Crash gets it, and the healing from Gromp with Smite combined pulls him back to full HP. And he gets the Gromp, which is a fairly significant win for this Hecarim, who will try and get over to this top side Scuttle Crab to make sure he's not double scuttled.
So there is mid-prior for the side of CGA, or at least there was momentarily. I wonder if that means that Kassin can then kind of walk across and actually get there in time. That's exactly what's happening. Crash says, okay, maybe not. We're going to have to give up this one. Double scuttled, kind of a, well, not quite a reverse, because remember, of course, CGA and Kassin got themselves the 3 buff, and then they traded that for the double scuttle last time. This time it's kind of going to be an invade for CGA that does work out. Remember, still extra camps taken, but then also the double scuttle going down.
Crash is going to try and instead look to go towards Kassin's side jungle and maybe look for a wraparound gank here. Milan and Alchemy are shoved up.
Oh, this is bad.
Need to be a bit afraid. In goes Enti, the double crash down. The devastating charge secures first blood for Sengoku Gaming. And that is one dead Jinx early
Just way out of position, not enough vision. Crash managed to slip around the vision line from CGA, and the stun mid-air from Enti means that you can't get out of that crash down. Confirmed kill onto Milan. Yes, you can try and flay out of it, but look at that stun. There's just no ability to outplay. And of course, shunted back into the team. Milan dies on this Jinx for first blood. Awkward stuff for CGA.
Oh, tried to flash for the Lantern, but Ignite was too strong, and Milan burns both summoners and gets nothing for it. Does go down at first, but of course it only goes the way of the Rel, which is not necessarily the target you absolutely want it on, but this Jinx put behind early on has got the cull at least, but not what you want to see if you're a CGA fan, and we said that bot lane was rough, last game. I will get sentences and grammar correct one of these days. But until that time, my point being, Jinx is in a difficult spot, and Milan once again having a slightly difficult game in lane.
Yeah, well, they are. So it does have the cull up in CS, so not the worst thing ever. The question is, when does this start really transferring into objectives? Because we won't have Herald up for a little while, and Dragon is on the table. Kassin is pretty far ahead of Crash. Because of the time spent to go towards that bot gang, Kassin has full cleared alongside stealing out those extra camps. Milan, though, walks up to Gango, takes most of his HP. That's kind of unfortunate for the Jinx once again.
It's not necessarily what you want to see. Paz has been tagged with that darkness, and does trade back relatively well, though, with the Boomerang, of course not.
So I didn't see the full runes, actually. I'd imagine it's Time Warp Tonic coming in from the Nocturne 2. So when you pop the Corrupting Potion, you say, yeah, I'm going to run at you. If you Spell Shield and then don't get the slow from the Boomerang, have the pot ticking for the extra move speed whilst you also get that extra healing. It's just a lot of extra mobility. Crash has been seen, and this means maybe they're going for a play.
Yeah, thinking about it, that's a crash down again, though, and that's Jinx trying to get out, but Alchemy fails the flash! And in the 2v2, Gango and Enti come out on top.
So that was Kassin seeing the jungler, knowing that the bot lane was missing, and Alchemy and Milan just miscommunicating, misreading the map state, and honestly, I think Milan's probably dead now. Okay, maybe not. Okay, they let him get away. Tell the tale of Alchemy's failed flash.
They gotta let someone get away to tell the tale, and respawns will come through now, but that's 2 kills in the bot lane again. This one goes the way onto Gango. This one's without jungler intervention, and This one leaves Sengoku Gaming up about 1,000 gold early on.
That it do. Xin takes into the scuttle, so keeping up the 100% scuttle record in this game so far, and does have the smite coming in towards this red buff still. Crash heading up towards his Krogs, probably not going to be here in time to take his own red buff himself. Xin at least still keeping themselves ahead in this jungle matchup.
Yeah, indeed, the Graves doing pretty well to be a nuisance to the Hecarim, try and get himself far ahead as possible, but he is coming at the cost of this bot lane a little bit. Of course, Hecarim has an easier time ganking by himself than, say, a Graves, even if it's not that much better. And Graves doing okay, but I'm not sure trading up 8 CS 2 camps or so for 2 deaths in the bot side is necessarily what you want to see as a CGA fan.
No, but as a CGA fan, you are happy to see that Xin is doing all right. Nap has not been bullied about in this early lane, so Nocturne, I don't know if it's meant to be necessarily a lane counter. I think there are trading patterns you can have versus a Mininar, and I think we've seen a couple of them on screen already, and we've theorized a couple of them between the two of us too. Question is, at what point does that become a real issue for Sengoku? What point is this kind of like, you're just going to shove and then threaten the Orianna and then have the ability to just like force out Ramene's flash and stuff like that? Because it's not like Nap has really become unlocked so far, and he doesn't have teleport to impact this dragon fight either.
He does not. Either way, Cassin will hop over the wall and look to start it up. Sengoku Gaming are here in force, though, to try and make this a bit more difficult. That's the Hex Flash, and Milan is in a difficult space, takes the Dark Passage, but the turnaround Equalizer is actually pretty good at disengaging alongside that collateral damage. Cassin's still over the wall, but the Onslaught of Shadows is there, and it's a double Attract, Repel, the Shockwave flashed away from, but there's a Killer Instinct from Gango follower. It's 2 already for Sengoku Gaming. Cassin gets out alive, and it's a double for Orianna to make it even more. Ramane gets himself into the game, and suddenly it's 5-0 in the kill score. It's a dragon apiece. Void Seeker misses, but Gango's still across the wall because he knows where he is. And that puts Gango at 3-0-3. It's not quite 4-0-4, but CGA still can't be found in this game.
Oh, CGA, they're just fighting in the wrong areas of the map. I think Alchemy Milan just caught out, well, I'd say one too many times, but that'd be kind of doing them a little bit too much justice there. The Equalizer comes through. Yes, it disengages Gango and NC, and the collateral damage comes through as well. But I think at this point, you need your Nocturne to turn the advantage to this bot side. Try and look for something big. Kassin gets caught with a Shockwave. He has Flash at this point. He doesn't flash out, doesn't get onto any important. Nation just doesn't have the damage either at this point in the game. Sengoku playing around their power spikes, and CJ all, well, willing to let them do so.
They saw it with the Void Seeker sort of vision across the wall as Nap gets a solo kill off screen during the replay onto this Gnar, but now he's in trouble. But here comes Crash, looking to come and crash down, but Cassin around makes it a little bit more difficult and decides he won't go for it. And Nap gets the solo kill and gets away with it too.
And at the dawn of the second game, look to the top lane. As Nap comes in, and he just completely bursts them out. This is it. They're just Meganar just not available. Flash not enough to carry them away. Flash is out. Jeez, that is a burst combo from Nap.
It is, and he plays it close to the wire. You saw that HP bar. It was looking a little dicey there for a second or two, but it will at least be CGA on the board. They get a kill. He gets out. It's still, I must note, a 2,500 gold lead, a dragon, and a herald being started up, which is not what you want to see. But CJ can at least start to contest. Perhaps there is no ultimate yet on Nap again, but in goes Cassin. He's still in a very difficult space. It's a good collateral damage, and the Equalizer is better. But the Meganar almost here. The Shockwave disengages for now. Nation is there. The Spell Shield is good on the bot side, though. It's a big kill for Gango. Nation turns it around a little in the top side, but it's still a win in favor of Sengoku Gaming. 2-for-1 around them. Oh, I'm sorry, 3-for-1 across it all.
And Gango's just completely off the hook just now. He's well, I mean, I say off the hook. I mean, I'm not sure if the hook even landed in the bot side. Gonna see the replay towards this CVT. Milan's he's just out of position for the umpteenth time in this game, in this series, and yeah, hook doesn't land, of course. Gango gets in. NC has been punishing this 2v2 so hard. It's a bit of a bot diff.
It is, and you saw the lantern, but that was exactly what NT was waiting for. It's fantastic double magnet storm, just what I was after. Lantern just puts Milan in the death chamber for the 3rd time this game. That bot lane is a combined 0 and 5 thus far. That is a death pretty much every 2 minutes.
That it is. And unlike last game, I don't think you have that many play patterns when you're that far behind as a Jinx. This has always been the Jinx problem. If you fall behind, things go from bad to worse very, very quickly. I mean, much like, again, Jinx's adversary and partner in crime in some ways, Vi as well. Vi in the jungle. If you fall behind, you just don't tend to do very well. Now, outside of 0 and 3, this Jinx is going to struggle to be relevant in even the most perfect of scenarios.
Yeah, never mind get excited. It's more like get exhumed, get pulled out of the grave just to end up being put back in one more time. It's a rough life as this Jinx who is not really alive and kicking in this game right now. The Herald didn't fall when Sengoku started, though, because they were driven off with either HP bars. That does mean the CGA will be able to sneak in and get this one away, even if Paz spots it going down. Bit of a feel-good moment for CGA in a game that's been far and few between. Few and far between. Oh, there you go. That's the right way to phrase that.
That has. And again, this is another game where, we were looking for Nation to do something, and he's not going to be here in the bot side. He has a teleport. I think it's too late, though.
Oh, boy, that's a Magnet Storm again, but there is the teleport back. Crash still thinking about coming in. He's very fast, though. May need to be quite careful about coming in. The Shockwave buys time, and wait, Jinx gets one. The turnaround, though, makes it a 1-for-1.
Oh, not bad.
That is a massive rocket, though. A Nation gets so much. And suddenly, Jinx is back alive. Double kill. And Sengoku Gaming overreaching the bot lane.
Well, and I said, look to the top lane at the dawn of the second game. Turns out a mid laner is never early or late. He arrives precisely when he damn well means to. Picks up some huge shutdowns in that bottom lane. Importantly, gets Jinx back into the game. Huge shutdown onto Gango. That's also going to be plates in the mid lane. CGA back on the board.
They get so much gold, and suddenly that gold lead is brought down to only 1,000. Sengoku Gaming throwing a lot away there, and credit to CGA as well. Great teleport, great turnaround, and Milan gets 2 out of that as well, so he is suddenly alive and kicking in the game as well.
That is. So, now we have to look towards the next fight, which is going to be that dragon, which is currently alive. I mean, I say next fight. I'm actually not sure CGA have the tools available to them now. Of course, they have themselves the Paranoia from the Nocturne. Looking into those individual player differences, and yes, there's still a huge difference in the Kaiser. I actually think that would have been a much larger difference not too long ago. Nation now getting himself back into relevancy with, again, those big shutdowns, because, of course, the Ramune have been so involved earlier into this game.
Indeed, and that was a tower dive that went awry. You see the idea, and Cassim with Crash was thinking, yeah, I can get out of this. I've still got myself. I've got an onslaught of shadows. We'll just turn it, and we'll just get out of here. It'll be fine. And then, of course, you got to remember that there's a Mega Death Rocket that flies globally and follows up and causes a lot of chaos. And there's an Equalizer, which is also real long range. It can follow up. Bit of a charge of the Light Brigade there. Crash goes into the cannons of the turret and comes out a little worse for wear in this one. Still, it's Sengoku Gaming with a lead. They're still going to try and get themselves first turret down here, even if they kind of let it slip a little.
Yes, so we don't have a Mythic in for the AD carry yet. That's important. We do have Stridebreaker in for Nap. Of course, this is kind of like the New Age Nocturne, where you're more Brawler than Assassin. You're not going towards Duskblade or Prowler's Claw or something like that. You're trying to stack up that Conqueror and run down your opponent. Now, Paz now sat there on Mini Nart. Does have to be respectful of the Nocturne. Does have a decent CS advantage, but Nap, once he does get into these teamfights, the question is between Red Carpet. That Equalizer. I keep calling it the red carpet. I mean, it will be rolled out for the VIP of Gango.
It's a red carpet of fire.
It's going to be rolled out for the MVP of Gango, and if you have that with the Night Harvester proccing on it and the Comet on top of that, collateral damage, Stride Breaker coming in after the Paranoia, and then also a Mega Death Rocket, is that enough to kill Gango? It's a lot of damage, and if it doesn't kill him, I think CJ have probably already lost that game.
A little bit. Gango might be face-checking a Graves, but it's not just him, because there's an Alchemy there as well. Sorry, Enti there as well. Wrong support, but either way, it's still Gango that gets himself a 6th kill this game, and Cassim was trying to be the assassin, pull the solo Q play, and instead ends up dying for the 3rd time this game. He is now 0-3-1. It's been a bit of a rough one for Cassim thus far. It's the other side of the coin. Last game went pretty well for him. This one, he tries to push camp and instead finds himself in 2 versus 1.
That one feels bad. That one's a bit of a solo mission. If you have an Equalizer close, maybe you can finish that off. There was a Flash available to Sin. Maybe there's a way you can outplay the Magnet Storm. Didn't get to survive through to the collateral damage, though. That's just not understanding your safe boundaries as a champion and where people are on the map. You know no one's coming to help you. You know that's a solo play. Still goes for it anyway and just gets completely brutalized.
Indeed, and you now have a Kaiser who
Oh,
is
big dive coming in bot. They do have
stratospherically
Paranoia.
far ahead. And Ramone could be in a spot of bother here. Of course, he is an Orianna and has some outplay potential. That's the shockwave to buy time, but that is a dive as well. Has stopwatch. Nap now in trouble. That is Paz coming around as well, looking to get him with the Stride Breaker, forcing the flash from the Nocturne. But there's a Lantern to get the Nocturne out to safety. A lot burned from Ramone, but he does survive.
He does survive, and he burns a flash 2 ultimates and gets out free from it. This gives time for Gango to push onto mid saying, well, okay, there's no Nocturne ultimate now. What do I need to be afraid of? Of course, there's going to be the Equalizer available from Nation to clear out waves and threaten the backline again. But speaking of that, does Nation goes forward and takes a little bit of HP off of Gango, of course, that Night Harvester. But CJ use a lot towards that bot side, and they get nothing for it.
Indeed. There's the Equalizer trying to buy space and get rid of that wave you were mentioning. Does mean it's not available, say, for this Herald coming in 50 seconds or so, though I grant you, not on the longest cooldown, so maybe I'm actually going to eat my words. I'm just watching that cooldown tick down at an alarming rate, so I take it back, it'll be available.
So this is it's a second rank of the Equalizer, and this is actually Night Harvester, which gives you cooldown reduction. Nocturne is not used to having cooldown reduction. It's not a champion which is often used that, because a lot of his basic abilities, you're using them in a you're not using them on cooldown, you're using them to manage your heat. Having the extra cooldown available for your ultimate, though, very important. And as you're saying, yeah, Nation gonna have that ultimate. Well, it's already 2/3 of the way off cooldown.
I was going to say, I won't be taking that long to that big teamfight ultimate on cooldown. That's going to be a big deal. And instead, it'll just be off cooldown in like 20 seconds now. So, yes, it'll be available, all right. And now Paz has got himself a Mega Gnar, though, which is potentially well-timed for this Herald if they're looking to go straight to it. Otherwise, will be on cooldown. And Mini Gnar is a lot more vulnerable than any other most other champions in this game. I say that as I'm looking at Milan, who also has flash and heal available, which makes him a little less attractive at this point as well. Either way, Herald being started up, but it will.
Hey, he looks plenty fine.
But here comes CJ because they do want to contest. Ramone not quite here yet. That's the Herald going down. Nocturne's Paranoia is popped. Death Sentence onto the Mini Gnar I just mentioned. But the Onslaught of Shadows is there. Nap is into the backline trying to stay on Ramone. But there's a Mega Gnar coming. Surely Gango over the wall survives. The Shockwave Wisp, but it's a 1-for-1 thus far. Wait, sorry, a 2-for-1 thus far because Nap fell as well. The Boulder Toss allows the Killer Instinct and the devastating charges there as well. Crash gets another and gets out, and from a 2-for-1, it swiftly turns into a 4-for-1, and it's Nation left alive to survey the rubble of his mid lane tier 1.
Combo doesn't look bad for CJ at the start of it, but it's just not enough. CJ run away with a Herald, running away with the game, and while it felt like last game was very even until it turned on a dime, this seems more like the watershed moment where just the dam breaks. CGA look for a really big combo at the start of it, and the hook lands. They get 3 people in their initial kind of engage. Ramone engaged onto by now, but there's just not enough damage going on to Gango because the Equalizer doesn't hit. Yes, the Shockwave misses, but it's still Gango just so far ahead, and after Paz lands that Boulder Toss and the extra charge of the devastating charge comes through from Crash. It's kind of all she wrote for the side of CGA. They don't end up winning that fight, and they're very far behind in multiple key roles. They don't have the burst damage to threaten out Gango.
And Sengoku Gaming now find themselves up 5,000 gold and 2 turrets to none. There's a Cloud Drake spawning in a moment or two as well. They've already got the first 2, so let's put them up to Soul Point. And Sengoku Gaming are in very strong command of this game.
They are. So they are ahead, what? That's coming up to about 5,000 gold. Just taking over to that now as they take down an extra dragon. That's going to be Cloud Soul Point. That's with, of course, having themselves... I think actually Cloud Soul is really important for the likes of Kaiser alongside the Hecarim, because after you ult, you get that increased movement speed. It means you're never going to run away from that champion if you are Milana. Heck, if you're using it to disengage someone like the Nocturne, there's a good chance you actually get out with the increased movement speed too. This guy is a 7-on-6. I think Gango actually now... So he had his Callista and his Kaiser being his most played, tied at 15 games earlier in the split. I think this overtakes the Callista at this point, or at least keeps it even again. Gango now sat on a really healthy scoreline, showing why he's so comfortable keeping returning to this champion.
And last game, it was Aphelios on a couple items that allowed them to start at the Baron. This time it is Kaiser. Both are fantastic shredders of neutral objectives, and this one is down to 3,000 HP. There comes the Megadeth Rocket, but it's still too late. Baron goes down. They're at Soul Point already, and the Paranoia... It's just a little bit too late. Not paranoid enough, it turns out, for CGA.
Apparently not. Sengoku, okay, Hook's landing. Maybe there's a fight to be had here.
Does land in, and they're going to try and get onto Crash, who's taken very low, goes down onto big shutdown onto the Hecarim. As Sengoku Gaming are a little bit over-eager to come back into mid lane, and the rest of the HP bars are now left relatively low. Gango and Enti are still going to try and come around here. Paz is at Meganar. They could still look for something here. They want to try and clear out this mid lane wave, but instead CGA will get 2 towers in mid and a kill, which isn't bad as far as Silver Linings post-Baron go.
Absolutely not. This stalls out the Baron push. You don't have your jungler, who's a large part of your engage, available for the next minute. So he's been dead, and then it stalls out these wave pushes. And it does allow CGA to push out mid, bot, and top. Sengoku probably not going to get much off this Baron play now. Whereas that could have been a game-ending objective. Seems like CGA buy themselves a second chance, but it doesn't really fix out that whole huge gold disadvantage they're in.
Indeed, there's a gold advantage, and then there's this gold advantage, and of course there's a Baron buff that will be helping add to that as much as they can. And even without thinking about it, I'm looking over and I'm seeing that's a 7, 1, and 6 Kai'Sa at 3 items. That's still pretty much unmatched in this game. Yes, I'm looking at a Jinx that's got herself to 2, but that's not necessarily a collector. It's not an Infinity Edge. Still down a full item, and it's going to be a while before she's a real match for this Kai'Sa.
Exactly, and the other thing is, look at Gango's level 13. That's the same as the enemy solo laners. You're not going to have that XP advantage diving in on someone like Nap onto Gango. And actually, with this Baron buff, it will still be Sengoku taking down a number of turrets to the advantage. They're going to try and break open this this play RCGA and try and use their globals, but actually, they just don't have the wave clear right now to get themselves an opening.
I really like Crash's positioning there as well, just hanging in the jungle between the lanes, knows as the Hecarim with the Ghost and the Onslaught of Shadows available. He's just so damn quick, so wherever Nap could have decided to go, the Hecarim could respond as quickly as possible. Of course, Nocturne does remove vision of when he pulls that paranoia, but in competitive play, it's a little easier to manage just communication and looking over at each other's screens.
Yeah, exactly. That's a big thing, right? When you get that paranoia, you can start looking around the place. You can also ping on the minimap too. That's one thing you always get to see. You can always ping. So if you are not altered by Nocturne, just ping. It does actually help a lot. And what would really help CGA right now is if Sengoku went home, because anytime they're on the map, CGA seems to be losing stuff. And they're probably going to lose this top lane inhibitor turret too.
It's definitely going to be put under siege. Death sentence going wide definitely allows Sengoku Gaming to step forward and secure themselves first inhibitor of the game. The gold lead just keeps getting bigger, up to about 6,500 gold now, and they're going to retreat happy with their Baron power play. It just times out before Gango can hit the recall button, so he'll be on an extended recall, but he'll still get out just happily. Nap has been split pushing away in the bot side, but I think all he'll get to do is shove the wave in. He won't get to threaten the tower.
So Kassin going to take away Wolves, actually, with the slim amount of time he has to have on this side of the map, getting him, and he is actually at 2 items, going towards his third, has a large CS advantage, keeping up actually with that camp still gets an XP advantage. So in terms of the smiting ability, slightly favored towards CGA. That might deny the Sengoku themselves assault, but actually, you know what? I think CGA want to let this dragon go over, let Soul go down, and say, actually, flip a Baron. I think flip a Elder Soul rather, Elder Dragon. And if you get that buff from there, maybe at that point, that's a 1 team fight for you.
Again, but then I'm also looking and saying, do I want to give a Hecarim, a Rel, a Kai'Sa move speed on their ultimates? Like, that sounds pretty rough as well. As far as champions to give Cloud Soul over to, that's some of the better options in the game, frankly. So while I agree, Elder Soul, possible Elder in general, being a potential last gasp win option for CGA, still not good news to be giving over that powerful soul.
I think the thing is, fighting that dragon leaves you more likely to lose the game than actually win it. I think that you have a higher chance of winning by being even going into the Elder fight, rather than trying to get anything else. So what we see is CJ trading for a top lane turret, trying to get something running for them. They lose themselves a turret on the bot side, though. At least there's no Baron buff to keep these minions up, but then there's a flash engage!
Flash engage from NT goes in. That's the killer instinct to follow up. And Milan taken so low. The devastating charge secures the kill onto the Jinx. She dies one more time this game. Nat being forced away, as well as Paz gets vengeance for the lane and gets himself a kill onto the top laner. It's 2 dead already. And now Paz nearly at Meganar. Cassin. Gale forces forward, but it's incidental. Poke the Meganar into their own damn Nexus. Nexus turrets are still alive. And it means absolutely nothing. Nahun stays alive, but he is the only one. It's another 4 for none. It's Sengoku Gaming onto the Nexus turret. It's Sengoku Gaming who are looking to go ahead 2-0 in this series.
CGA, they don't take the Cloud Soul fight. They say, you know what, we're going to wait until Elder. And then just like at the start of the game, Milan and Alchemy get caught out. They don't understand where it's safe for them to be. And then the game falls away from them. If game 1 was contested, this one was anything but.
Indeed, it is. It's another bit of the bot lane problem. The win condition for Sengoku Gaming still unmatched. Jinx pick wasn't quite enough. And yes, it was a knocked in solo lane that got a solo kill. That was a tiny silver lining in the great thunderclouds that were Sengoku this game. They moved to 2-0. We're going to go on a quick break to prepare ourselves an analyst desk. So stick around and we'll break this game down further in just a moment or two.
Keep moving on. Keep moving on.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the desk for the LJLOU, bringing in that spring split playoffs coverage of Crest Gaming out facing off against Sengoku Gaming. Must one. Initialize Nightmare. Gentlemen, game number 2 is in the books. Oh, and I'm feeling rather good right now about my 3-0 predictions. Sengoku Gaming looks strong, and I'm gonna come over to you first, Nymera, because you had the kind of controversial pick of Crest Gaming Act, and even the official stream was heavily favored over on the Sengoku side. None of them went Crest Gaming Act, even if they did predict the 5 games, which several of them did. So I'm not trying to throw you under the bus
Yeah,
here.
no.
You were with others thinking it would go 5 games.
Sometimes you have those, there's epiphanies, late at night where you wake up and you write. So, by the way, get a bedside journal. Really, really fun. Just like if you're someone that thinks at night, that's one great way to keep everything in order. And this one was more of a bit of a delusion, though. I think I'm looking at this bot lane. Gango and NC are steamrolling this series. This is not close.
And I mean, this was kind of hard to watch. Gentlemen, I want to take it away from that bot conversation because we'll come on to it in our first team fight because that's where Kango really starts to pop off. But let's first talk about, before they even got onto the Rift, we have to talk about this pick and ban phase and initialize. We both tweeted at the same man himself around the LEC of Riot videos. Oh, did we all do it?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, we all did. We all tweeted him.
I mean,
Page in videos.
Nocturne top initialized. What's happening?
All right, so this was an interesting draft from CGA. Obviously, we saw the Rumble solo lane ban last time. I think that was actually from CGA against Sengoku, interestingly. So there's something that's been lurking in scrims, and it turned out it was Rumble, or not Rumble top, Rumble mid, Nocturne top, and it was an interesting one. It got a solo kill versus an R1 to hit levels. It just got to dive in the long lane and chase him down, which was a good look for Nat. But that was kind of the last bright point. The rest of the time, the Nocturne didn't really get all that much done. Didn't really get an aggressive paranoia off, aside from, well, I guess around some of the skirmishes that never really went their way in the first place. So, nice idea in the 1v1. I just don't think they really got to execute it because the game was so far away from them by the time the Nocturne was online.
And let's talk about an occasion where technically the Nocturne wasn't involved, but over on the other side of the map in the 1v1 they were. Nymera, that first dragon fight was all Sengoku, and Crest Gaming Act kind of a bit of a miss early game.
So this is after the 2v2 had already been ganked in a pretty easy way, right? This was another example of Milan and Alchemy not really spacing correctly, not really giving themselves the best chance to kite back. This was a kind of a strange lantern across kind of 3 members of Sengoku. Then, of course, Ramune comes down with the shockwave to finish everything off. Kassin doesn't flash the shockwave. I think Kassin was also out of sorts in this early game. Bot side of the map just kind of fell to pieces, and then the dragon fight was the real kind of capstone of that.
But Nap got a 1v1.
Wow, look how that impacted the game.
I should laugh at that sarcasm, but it's so true.
I mean, initialize. Let's zoom on a bit further to where it went even worse for saying, "Go away." No, it's Crest Gaming Act. It went worse for. Oh dear, wrong way. Rift Herald, Dango becomes huge. Nap gets some kills and basically turns what Paz had, and it's a 3k gold lead at 11 minutes and 30 seconds in.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. It's a 3-for-1 in favor of Sengoku. Gango just ends up absolutely huge. They've got a Herald in inventory too, and at this point, the Kaiser's off the races. Yeah. The Jinx is not. And at that point, it feels like it's lights out for CGA. The one seriously bright spark for them was that failed tower dive bot where they get some kills back onto the Jinx because they were 0-5 combined at about 11 minutes in that game with the bot lane. And getting a couple kills back onto a couple key members was at least something, but even then, it was still a 2k advantage and there was still a Herald to play with for the side of Sengoku, so it just wasn't enough.
And that's where it was. They were finding these opportunities. They're trying to find something. And the last ditch attempt it was, Nymera, was around that second Rift Herald. We saw the teleportation and paranoia procced immediately from Nap in an attempt to get onto the backline, which he did. But where was the rest of his team?
So The really awkward thing is that CJ kind of get baited in the worst possible way, where a hook lands and there's like 3 people clumped in the front of CJ's faces. They are not Ramune and Gango. They do get Jinx firing on them. The paranoia goes on to Ramune, but then you have the equalizer not hitting Gango. You don't really have any pressure on the Kai'Sa, and if Kai'Sa lives, nothing else matters. Metallica knew that way back in the 90s, and we know it right now here in 2021. Turns out CJ had to kill that Kai'Sa. They didn't, they died.
And they were able to turn the momentum of this game well and truly into the Baron, which the Crest Gaming Act weren't even able to even consider contesting. And, well, it was a repeat of game number 1, gentlemen. Sengoku brute forced their base again. And I'm almost wondering, is there a way for Crest Gaming Act to prevent these kind of things from happening? Or is this just kind of a symptom of the game?
I think this game in particular was, I hate to say it, it's pretty much entirely on the bot lane of CGA. Part of it's on Sin. I think that his early game, in terms of the, not actually forcing down crashes, but was they could have done by failing to leash that Gromp correctly, having some awkward 1v1 moments walking in across the place. But it feels like Sin was not confident in this game. It showed in a number of microaggressive plays, and also showed in the bot lane when they just didn't know where to play around the lane. They were pushed up way too far. Their lane assignment was awful this game.
And you got to call it out, like, they knew kind of where this Hecarim was, right? And he walks past Vision through the enemy red side jungle and comes in behind them all. They had to have had some clue about what the potential pathing could have been. And I just needed that Thresh potentially to, even because of where the wave was an awkward place, don't get me wrong, I'm talking particularly around this first blood down that bot side. Thresh just needed to step back and have the lantern ready. Just like, if you're needing to farm and push that out, then you've got to play it a bit safe. That's partly why you picked this Thresh, right? It's not just to be aggressive. It's to be defensive for this Jinx, to offer her the mobility she doesn't have innately. At least not until she thinks about getting maybe a Gale Force, but of course she wants to go Kraken Slayers. That's not even really going to be the thing. So, yeah, I think if CGA are going to come back in this series, the bot lane needs to not collapse. I don't care if you fall behind, but you can't be dying like that over and over again.
And I mean, that's where the matchup is really being decided at the moment. We've seen it twice in a row now from Crest Gaming Act. This is where I must ask the question, a final question to you both, before we go to a break. Is this where Crest Gaming Act need to pull a V3 old of summer and start playing around weak side, do a lane switch, put Nap down into the bot lane, literally give him absolute worst case scenario, give him Sion, and just say, figure it out, mate. You're the only man that can do this.
You need to be well practiced at that. You need to be so well practiced. If they haven't prepped it, it's not an option. I think you can only do it on blue side. I think you have to, just because of the geography of the map. I think it's really awkward to do so. It's an option. Have to see side choice first, though.
Shall I over to you? Anything else that maybe Crest Gaming Act can do?
How do I put this one? I wonder what you do is just switch to playing strong side bot, because weak side bot isn't working. Gango and NT are taking the pressure they're given and running away with it, and Milan and Alchemy aren't surviving the pressure. Nap is a good weak side player. Get him on something like a Renekton instead.
That's going to be bad.
Play around bot for the counter plays. And then just try and double teleport in. Put Gango and NT in a more difficult position, because the minute they're just getting to play the lane as they like and they're running away with it.
Yeah. I mean, Sengoku Gaming have banned that Renekton twice in a row. I don't think he'll get that Renekton, but we will have to wait and see. We haven't seen Paz on that Camille either, so hopefully we can start seeing a bit more flavor. But the top lane has already been full of flavor. Nocturne top, I believe, a worldwide first, of course, in the LJL. Obviously, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to take a short break here now over here at the desk. But when we come back, game number 3. Match point for Sengoku Gaming versus Crest Gaming. You won't want to go anywhere. We'll be back in a moment.